Good Friday afternoon, everybody. We made it to the end of another week officially, and with the end of another week comes another injury report to investigate and analyze. We now have some idea of what both teams, are going to be able to field this Sunday in Minnesota. So, starting with the Seahawks injury report, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Let's eat our vegetables first and talk about the bad news. So the bad news is our offense going into this game is a little bit handicapped. And we're missing aspects of this offense that are not our most important aspects, but each of the missing pieces was adding something to this offense that I think there's a noticeable loss of. So unfortunately, despite Carroll assuring us that Dwayne Eskridge was close, which I took to mean that he was very likely going to play this week because every indication was he was close to getting back on the field last week. Dwayne Eskridge is out against the Vikings. Already been declared out. So I don't know if his condition got worse. I don't know if they're playing it super safe. I don't know. But last week, you may remember that Dwayne Eskridge was not declared out until Saturday. So, not really sure what's going on there. My best conclusion is that we're playing it super safe, but I'm kind of wondering if things actually flared up this week compared to last week. Also out, not that this is a surprise, is Rashad Penny, the backup running back, which, look, I don't know if Penny is going to be able to provide anything for this team this year. But I do know that Chris Carson is just a little bit slow on those outside zone runs that Waldron likes, and Penny could probably add some sort of dimension there. Brandon Shell also declared out, our starting right tackle, and the impact of that is going to be significant. I think it's pretty clear why, going up against a Vikings team with Danielle Hunter back and Everson Griffin. And finally, Benson Mayowa is questionable with a neck injury. And that's actually all there is to this injury report. So, Dwayne Eskridge was our fastest player on offense. He's probably the fastest player on the whole team. So you lose him, you lose some ability to take the top off of the defense. You lose some ability to really put the fear of God into these defensive backs. You lose something on your jet sweeps. That was a way we really liked to get him the ball early in the season. It seemed like we were doing that a couple times a game. So you lose that. And even though Eskridge's production is not likely to be huge this year anytime, it's the threat of having him out there that is significant. You miss that. Like I said, when you don't have Penny out there, I don't know if he makes your team that much worse, but he does give you some speed to the outside that Carson just can't quite provide. Maybe Collins can provide it. I don't know. It seems like he's not that much faster than Carson to me, but you got to find a way to execute on those outside zone runs without Penny for another week. And the shell thing, that one could be big because you got Jamarco Jones going out there. And Jamarco Jones has been up and down his career in Seattle, but in my estimation, he's not that good at tackle. He's a good guard. He's capable at guard, but I don't really like him starting at tackle. So I'm looking at this Vikings team that has Danielle Hunter back from an injury of his own, I believe, and Everson Griffin. You got to get the ball out quickly if you're Russell Wilson, combined with the fact that we know this Vikings team has a good counter to our all or nothing passing attack, which we saw last year when they really shut down our offense for 56 minutes out of 60. You're going to have to get the ball out of your hands quickly. You're going to have to run that Waldron offense. We're going to have to see a lot of the things we saw against the Colts. And if you try to play this Vikings defense the way you played against the Titans, where you were just going for kill shots, it's not going to end well. So there is definitely a part of the offense that you lock away when you don't have Brandon Shell. As much as Brandon Shell is not the greatest player ever, he is better than Jamarco Jones. And very important that Wilson plays within himself in this game, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But that's the bad news. The offense is handicapped a little bit here. The good news is the defense is as in good a shape as you could hope right now. Yes, Trey Brown is still out. He's probably going to be back next week, it sounds like. But other than that, you've got the guys. You've got your crew. Brian Monet, we weren't sure about him earlier this week. He's going to play, and that's huge. He clearly was missed in our run defense last week, and we're going to need our run defense this week against Dalvin Cook, maybe, which we'll get to in a second here. But Mayoa is the only guy who might miss this game, and honestly, Mayoa was playing way too many snaps. So I look at this, and my first thought is, did we put too much of a load on Benson Mayoa? Because he was playing a ton of snaps in that Titans game, which I thought was a mistake, and now I'm seeing him show up on the injury report with a neck injury, which is scary. One, I'm thinking to myself, did we play him too much? Two, I'm thinking, hopefully this means at least your better players can get on the field more. So that's it for the Seahawks injuries. The Vikings, their injury report is actually pretty similar in size, but potentially much bigger in scope. So they've got 3 players who are out. Anthony Barr is out, their stud outside linebacker who, I don't know, it feels like he never totally got to where people thought he was going to get to earlier in his career, but he's a starting element of that defense. He's an important part of that defense for sure. And you got to believe that without Anthony Barr out there, you should have a little more success running the ball. Christian Darrisaw is out, and he's a starting offensive lineman for them. He was their first-round pick this year. So another week, another starting offensive lineman missing the game for a Seahawks opponent. Defensive line, I'm looking at you guys. You guys got to make up for some of that crap against the Titans, and it's don't get me wrong, it starts with playing your best players, and that's on the coaching staff. But whoever gets out there, you got to find a way to get pressure because, well, I'll get to this tomorrow, but that's absolutely key in pretty much every game you play. And with no Darrisaw out there, there's less excuse to be unable to get consistent pressure. We also have Harrison Hand out, who it's not insignificant, but I believe they can get by without him. Now, the big one, and the one we don't know about yet, is Mr. Dalvin Cook, running back, who has, I feel like, gotten injured 18 times already this season. Seemed like there was just a bunch of stuff wrong with him in that Cardinals game, and we don't know. He barely practiced this week and is listed as questionable. If I had to guess, if I had to take a guess, I feel like he's not going to play. And I feel like they're listing him as questionable because they don't want us to know until the last second. But we have to assume that it could go either way still at this point. So Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, and our run defense, which is traditionally very good, it took a beating last week against the Titans, and some of it was because they got tired, because they were good at the start, but overall it wasn't a good game, and I was definitely looking at this Vikings team as a team that could do some of the same things that the Titans did, because they have an elite running back as well, and they're a team that is definitely built around running the ball and then hitting those play action passes like the Titans. So if Cook doesn't go, that's a huge deal. Cook might be their best player. Of course, Alexander Mattison, who would be starting for Cook, he's clearly not as good as Cook. He did kind of do some work on us last year when we played the Vikings. So I can't take that for granted. I can't take being able to stop the run for granted just because Dalvin Cook can't play. But very interested to keep an eye out on Cook's status. Even if he does play, I think it's pretty clear that he can't possibly be anywhere near 100%. So that is a big blow to that Vikings offense, and whatever injuries we're dealing with right now, and the ones we have are significant, they don't hold a candle to the Vikings possibly missing Dalvin Cook. So if he's out, you got to use that to your advantage. But other than that, not a whole lot else. The injury reports for both teams are fairly short, but in the case of the Vikings, they are very significant. And I'll talk more about the exact matchup tomorrow, but for now, those are your injuries. Let me know what you guys think down below. Go Hawks.